Let's go. So in my Mario Maker video, I've added a title again. I've decided to put in some titles because I like them, just so that will come back. Right, here's some joysticks. This is a Google search of the word joystick, I imagine, unsurprisingly. I don't know how, I must have set it up so that it lists it in a different way so that it's like everything's really close together. I'm not sure how I did that.
Play this game properly, you're going to want to get a joystick because you need a device as complicated as a keyboard that you can use without your eyes. This is because you can't use the VR controllers in this game because the commands you're going to use include, and are most certainly not limited to...
I don't have a lot to say there. My neighbor is the person that inspired this entire series, and he was the one that told me to get a joystick. I would never have done that. I'd have just used the keyboard and spent the whole video complaining about the keyboard. So he very, very heavily influenced these videos. He was just here, actually. He's a musician as well. He's a musician with Emma. They run their business together, and he lives next door. So it's all very intense, but he's a nice guy. And this next scene is going to be a musical summation of all of the controls in the game. Most of them aren't really that necessary.
Nose down, nose up, wings left, pivot right, thrust forward, thrust back, thrusters up, thrusters down, thrusters left, thrusters right, direct power to engines, direct power to systems, direct power to weapons, engine boost, flight assist, toggle frame shift drive, activate supercruise, activate hyperspace jump, activate weapons and primary fire, use secondary fire, select target ahead, select next target, select target of highest threat, cycle forward through weapons, cycle backward through weapons, activate silent running, activate heat sink, activate cargo scoop, activate landing gear, jettison all cargo, and not forgetting... ship side.
So, cool. That was a lot of shit, wasn't it? So you've made it to 2 minutes 11. Brilliant. I've got a bit to say about that. For one, the first thing that comes into mind is I sound very bored.
Flight assist, toggle frame shift drive, activate supercruise, activate hyperspace.
Activate supercruise, activate I'm not really... I thought by this point my voice acting had gotten a bit better, but I still sound very bored. Activate supercruise, activate hyperspace drive, activate, you know, there's not much energy to what I'm saying.
Direct power to systems, direct power to weapons.
I sound really bored, but there you go. That's just because I'm crazy. This took, I would say, probably a full day's work. I'd say 9 to 5 probably is how long that took. I could sound surprised if I wanted to. This is like a full day's work. This probably took 9 to 5. Which is part of the reason why I've never done anything this elaborate ever since. I just get every time I do one of those listing things, you'll notice that I list them not like this, how I do it here.
Nose down, nose
Bam,
up,
bam,
wings left,
bam,
wings right,
bam,
pivot left,
bam,
pivot right,
bam,
thrust
bam.
forward, thrust...
The amount of lag I was getting on Adobe Premiere when I had these 4 1080p or 5 1080p, and they're all moving as well, images on screen, all that have been compressed down. It's a fucking nightmare. I had no idea whether or not it was lining up with what I was saying. Which is why a lot of it is in the same location, because it was made easier, obviously. I tried to do as much of it as I could in this location so that it wouldn't have to be difficult. But then I thought, oh, that's boring for the audience
Flight
to watch.
assist,
So
toggle
then I
frame
went
shift
to
drive, activate supercruise, activate hyperspace jump, activate weapons and primary fire, use secondary fire, select target ahead, select next target.
That's the training mission, which is how I've got people that I can target as the fighting training mission.
Select target of highest threat, cycle forward through weapons, cycle backward through weapons, activate silent running, activate heat sink, activate cargo scoop, activate landing gear, jettison all cargo, and...
I don't know what I was looking for was what I was about to say. Jettison all cargo, that scene
silent
there.
running, activate heat sink, activate cargo scoop, activate landing gear,
This I found on YouTube. This is a video of someone jettisoning their cargo. I have no idea how I found that. Just go onto YouTube and type in video of someone jettisoning cargo. To answer some of the chat's questions while I'm getting at that. Do you know of anyone that isn't a musician? No, I don't have many friends because I don't keep friends very well. I have a few from home, but that's about it. One of them is subscribed to me on Patreon. That's the level of friendship we have. He's very kind. He might be watching this, probably not, but he's a wonder. So when I met Emma, I immediately just ingratiated myself. That's probably not the right word. Integrated myself into all of her friends who are all musicians because she's a musician. Now I have lots of friends and I'm happy. I was very lonely before I met Emma. And that's about it. Stands to answering the questions. Right, next. Don't have anything else to say about it. I do a lot of this in my current videos where I'm like, diddle, diddle. I did it in my Blade and Sorcery video. I was like, all the commands. But I don't do it in quite... I feel like it's already like a quite a difficult thing to do when you have to like blah and have lots going on. Having more than in this, I did like screen jumped and had lots of things jumping in front of each other on the screen, but that just it pushes it from being difficult to being fucking impossible. But back then I was still really unsure of myself in these videos, so I was just throwing everything I could to try and get subscribers. Because at this stage I probably had around maybe 150,000 subscribers, so I was like, I need more. Because nowadays having 150,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, I mean, is still not. It's not enough to have like a secure living. Back in the day, obviously it was, but now because of ad revenue being pulled all the time and ad revenue being much lower than it used to be, and videos having to be so long, it just doesn't have the same pull as it used to, which is really sad because it's a shame. 100,000 is loads of people. I was also going to say something about. What was I going to say? Something about the way I was filming this. Let me just watch it again. Sorry, there was one more thing. Oh yeah, I did all that in one take, which is probably why I sounded so bored. This was before I knew you could just say sentences and then link them up. I would do all of my voice acting as in like I had a paragraph to say. I was adamant that I would say all in one go perfectly and really energetically, and it used to fucking kill me. Whereas now I break down my voice acting into sentences and then just cut them together, and it's much, much easier. But I did all of that in one take, possibly two. I might have cut out of the middle and stuck something together, but the rest of it was all one take because I was fucking insane. Continue.
Jettison all cargo and not forgetting ship sites. Being able to use all of these commands within VR on a keyboard is nothing short of absolutely crazy, so you do need to buy a joystick. I got this one, which obviously doubles as some kind of anal diagnostic. And
what really pissed me off about this, I like that joke with me tapping the buttons. I don't know what that's taken from, but I'm sure, again, all my jokes, I'm sure that's influenced by something else. I don't know what it is. That Vive isn't plugged in.
So you do need to buy.
So the zoom on the joystick is a really bad zoom because it cuts out the top and the bottom. And I watched back the footage and I was like, why did I do this? Why did I not realize when I was recording that I'd done that? Because I'm not happy with this next shot.
A joystick. I got this one, which obviously doubles as some.
Like you can't see the top of it, and I don't like shots like this. This is really grates me. So when I was editing it in, I was quite annoyed, but I really didn't want to redo it. And me poking the joystick is taken from a JonTron video. Which I wonder if I can show you. You might know what I mean. John joysticks. I'll be able to find this really easy. That joke is definitely stolen, and I can show you exactly where from. Let's have a look.
Looks like a time.
You can see how much I'm influenced by him by the way everything slides on screen and stuff. It's when he's talking about the Spider-Man joystick. Here we go. No. Yeah, here it is, Spider-Man.
You know the saying, a watched man never plays. A lot of these are just a penis. This one is Spider-Man's penis. Bombs away.
Oh,
this one is Fantastic
Oh no, this
Four's,
is it. Very
creepy
like
golem
this.
penis. Okay, is this good? Is this bad? I'm sorry, man. I kind of have to do this.
There you go. He is much funnier than me. So that was kind of where I got that from, like the little poking of the joystick. Because I am a thief. Everything is stolen. Nothing is mine.
Kind of anal diagnostic. And you know what's especially fun? When you realise the box the world's most sexually suggestive joystick comes in won't fit in your fucking backpack, so you have to carry it home on a 30-minute walk through London like this.
Excuse me if you've got the time.
So you get this device of...
I'll show you where I stole that joke from as well. Fuck me. So I didn't steal... That whole... that whole joke came about because it's true. So I wrote that joke myself. I live near a university and I was walking past it. And I didn't bring a bag. So I was just holding the box, and there were like 15, 20 somethings around me, and I was just like, or maybe even 15, let's say teenagers, between 18 and 22. There you go. Here you go. You're gonna love this. Who can anyone guess where I got, excuse me if you got the time from, before I get it up and show you? Oh, it's too late now, I've opened it here. It's at the very end of this video. I even know that. This is ridiculous. For God's sake, man. Write your own fucking jokes. Is this ruining the magic for you? Or is it must be somewhere. I thought it was at the very end, but it must not be. Here it is.
Because I want it all.
Sorry.
Do you have the time?
That's it. That's where I got it from. It's just a very... I mean, it's not like It's not much. It's not even a joke, but I did steal... Let's go back a little bit.
Ambition. Excuse me, sir. Do you have the time?
That's where I got it from. I don't do this anymore. All the jokes are mine, I swear. Let me close that. Cool. Continue. Yeah, well, better well stolen than poorly conceived. I'm not so sure. I think I've said this before a few times. This was, again, I don't even writing jokes. This was like the 4th video, and I made, at this point, I was making one every 3 weeks. So I'd only been writing jokes for about 2.5 months at this point. So I was still getting my bearings. So I think it's okay to nick a little. So I wouldn't worry too much. How long has this been going? I've got to keep a vague eye on the time. Does it tell me how long I've been streaming? How long have I been streaming? It used to tell me how long I've been streaming over preview. I'm just trying to find. Usually, sorry about it. Usually on my streaming thing, it tells me what's going on. It gives me details of the stream, but it's just nothing. Nothing is showing, and I'm a little bit confused about how long I've been streaming for. Do you guys know how long I've been streaming? Let me look at the time. Excuse me, have you got the time? How long have I been streaming for? I want it back. Okay, well, what we'll do, I'll stream until past. How about that? I don't know when I started. It doesn't tell me anything anymore. You bitch. All right, sorry, I'm here. I'm ready. Sorry, let's go. Sorry.
On a 30-minute walk through London like this.
Excuse me, if you've got the time.
So you get this device of questionable intent home and lock the doors because the
It is called the Thrustmaster. Who named the penis joystick the Thrustmaster? That's a joke that writes itself.
last thing you want is to be caught looking like this.
I'm a big boy.
You then need to map.
Can we all guess what that's stolen from? I'm on a fucking rampage with this one. I bet I can just find the single clip by Googling I'm a big boy. Here it is.
I'm a big boy.
There you go. Bam. Oh, I fucked everything. No. Come back to the center. I fucked up the stream. Sorry, everyone. Not going well. I've got a little bit too much energy. It's very hot today. It's not my fault. I'm getting overexcited. There we go. Put that back in a vaguely in the center. All right. Yeah, you know exactly where everything is. I'm getting a bit embarrassed showing you all this. Maybe I should stop being so honest.
Map every function I just discussed onto the joystick. There are less than 25 direct input methods on this joystick, and you want to map roughly 35 commands. So you must map certain functions to activate when you press 2 buttons at the same time. In one of the training missions, we're told we're going to use the frame shift drive, but you've never heard of that, so you Google it and learn that it makes you go extra fast.
Right, before we say that this was a nightmare to edit together, everything about this was difficult because it's only vaguely true. Because you don't really need like 35 commands because a lot of them double up. A lot of them you don't use. You know, if you're not in a combat ship, which I have never been, you don't need any of the combat commands, all this stuff. But you don't know this when you set this out because you don't know that you're never going to use. Like ejectable cargo is not a fucking thing you want bound if you don't know what you're doing. So anyway, let's go back. So that made it difficult. But just when you type in stuff on Google and you have to like edit it so that it is clear what you're typing, you know, the screen pans with it. I had to find the right places on the Wikipedia pages to sort of back up what I was saying. Just finding all the information and all the pictures was really difficult. But this goes on, and I imagine this took about a day as well. This like 15-second bit, but I just thought I'd say it before you see it. So try and keep that in mind when you watch. Not to feel sorry for me, just to try and imagine that this was quite tricky to make and see if it comes across. I don't know. It doesn't matter if it does. I'm just saying.
Told we're going to use the frame shift drive, but you've never heard of that, so you Google it and learn that it makes you go extra fast.
Sorry,
so
wait. Sorry. Let me move this over slightly. There we go. Start again. Sorry. Is that right? No, I was in the right place. Sorry. Being annoying now.
The training missions, we're told we're going to use the frame shift drive, but you've never heard of that, so you Google it and learn that it makes you go extra fast. So with this, you can go between planets and such. So you set up the button for that and you activate it. But then this doesn't work because you have to remove your mass lock. Okay, so we need to drive a minimum distance of 5 kilometers from the station to remove the mass lock. So once that's gone, you try and use the frame shift again, but you find you can't use it because you need to retract your landing gear drive. So we Google that and find out, okay, it's like landing wheels on a plane, so these need to be retracted. And by this time, all the buttons on the joystick are already taken by the basic flight commands. So for every single one of these commands, you have to make it so that you press 2 buttons at the same time to activate them. Then once you've done this, you can activate the frame shift drive, which charges and off you go. But now we're told we have to enter a destination. So we turn to the left and go to the navigation panel, then select the destination, click lock on, and now we're on our way. The difference between this and flying a plane in GTA 5? It's 2 hours.
That didn't look as difficult as I remember it being, I have to say. The first half of it was quite tricky, but the second half was a bit more straightforward. The main thing was just getting the right prompts to appear on screen at the right times. Because I am exaggerating slightly about how hard it was, but it is definitely very tricky. That's it, really. I haven't got anything to say. Let's go up there. Cool. Do I have anything else to add about that? Not really. Kind of self-explanatory, just showing you stuff that happened.
Ow, I quite like that you have to do this. I feel like I'm actually learning how to drive a spaceship. And it should be quite difficult, shouldn't it? You know when you see an advert for a loan on TV and the company claims it'll be quick?
Sake. Sorry, I was about to say with this bit. This is, when I was making this video, this was an actual advert that was appearing on TV at the exact time the video was coming out. So around early February 2018, the banks were releasing this advert, and it was literally like, it was exactly as I'm saying. I went on YouTube and I managed to find the advert, and it's an advert for taking out a loan, and they just make it look like look at that kid. Everything I'm saying here is completely true about how I feel. It's the chicken. Like this guy. What does he know about a loan? What does this guy know? Who's she? What the fuck has this got to do with anything? Loans are very, very serious things. I have a credit card, and when I got my credit card, it was fucking terrifying. I went into the bank, and it's kind of 2 points I want to make here. I'll take the first one first. Is what kind of asshole? Like, I know I've done sponsorships, right? This is me eating some humble pie, maybe. But I would never, like, I get a lot, oh God, I'm going to regret saying this. I'm 99% sure this will never happen unless something really bad happens to me. Like, I get a lot of sponsorship deals from mobile games. And all these mobile games have microtransactions in them. And I don't know, maybe this is just like a personal thing. I'm really against gambling and loans. I have this real personal issue with it. You know, I have family members that have like had trouble with, maybe I shouldn't be too specific. Like people I've known, how about that? Who, it's a bit like, this is the whole L Simpson thing. No, that's too specific. Let's just call her Lisa S. Sorry, I'm trying not to rant too much because I have a real issue with it, because I've known people that have got into gambling problems, and I consider, and you know, I also know people who have gotten into lots of like loan problems. You know, they've ended up owing more money than they earn per month. You know, the loan repayments are more than what they make per month, and all this sort of stuff. So I just think, where do they find these people that are like, yeah, I'll get involved in this really fun advert about taking out a loan? So I get really annoyed about that. So that was why I put this in it. 'Cause it's like, if someone said to me, oh, would you help promote, this mobile game that has microtransactions, and it's like, no, fuck you. These games are really problematic. But anyway, so that was kind of part of where this came from. And the other part was, around this time I just got on a credit card, and I was in the bank, and she was like listing all the things. It's like, if you miss a repayment, it's like, we will do this. Your house is now on the line if you have a mortgage. If not, we'll. And it's just like all this horrible stuff, and it's like, why would I use it because I'm trying to get a good credit rating. So basically I use it and then immediately pay it off. But if you get carried away, it really fucks you up. It's really terrifying what the banks will do to you. So I was all in this mindset. So I'm going off on one. I was all in this horrible mindset, and then I was making the video, and I just thought I'd write this joke in, because why the fuck not? And you see that chicken? That's literally part of the fuck. They show a chicken in the sky, a man in a suit. This is a loan. This is your house, mortgage, job, lifestyle. You're putting it all on the line here. It's very serious shit. Go.
And the company claims it'll be quick and easy, and they'll give anyone a loan regardless of their credit statement. That's why the economy is garbage everywhere.
I don't know where I got that fucking... I have no idea what this graph probably is actually about. But there you go. So there's my... there's my feelings on the topic. So, did I get carried away a little bit there? I think I probably did. Apologies. I get a little bit upset about this stuff. So yeah, that's why, I feel very strongly about that. So if I ever do a mobile game, please feel free to call me out. I don't think I ever will. I'd be very surprised. Anyway, let's continue with this. I'm getting a bit embarrassed now.
Getting a loan should be difficult, and so should flying a fucking spaceship. I think that should be difficult.
Where's this form come from? What the fuck is this? I have no idea where I got this form from. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with loans. So there you go. Here we go. So let's... And that noise as well is part of the chicken in the sky.
Where getting a loan should be difficult, and so should flying a fucking spaceship. I think that goes without saying. And here's the reason why a score out of 10 is so stupid, because it just depends if that's what you want. A really complicated ship that's difficult to drive means that once you've got the hang of it, you really have control. You can do almost anything because it's all controlled with separate specific commands that all do very different.
Cool. So there we go. This was really interesting, this bit, to get this, because getting your ship scan detected was really, really difficult. I think... yeah, Philippine resident was part of that form. I think also about the VPN thing, I use ExpressVPN. I just want to. I'm not like bitching about them, so I use it all the time when I'm doing certain things. Especially, I do a lot of work in coffee shops, like I said in the video, and I like to have it on because I don't like using my internet in a mobile area. So I do use them. I didn't want to sound like I was bitching about them. I think what I did to get this is while I was making the video, this is something I really don't like doing, but I did. I had to basically play the game while recording. So, because I think what this is a video of, this is me just playing the game one evening on my own, having a good time. But I recorded all the footage because I knew I couldn't find this anywhere. Ship scan detected, and I'm talking about ship scan detected, and I really wanted to get a clip of that. So I basically recorded myself playing with basically in an area I knew I'd get a ship scan, and then when it happened, I then trawled through the footage the next day and cut this bit out because it's really hard to get this. Because other than getting a player to maybe scan me, but I couldn't find anyone to do that. I also had a joke. I was just so bad at this game. I also had a joke I really wanted to do where someone recorded me flying my ship into an asteroid, and it's like you hear like me talking in the ship opposite, being like, "Oh God, what do I do?" And then I smack into it and spin around. But I made this so much down to the wire that adding that in was just going to take too much time because I had to get my friend to find me, and we were both so bad at the game. I think I think I could just make a tweet and someone would help me out. But this was before my Twitter had any followers, so I didn't have many people that could help me. Anyway, sorry.
Different specific things, and it being difficult to learn is the price you pay for this. This is a fundamental part of Elite Dangerous. Do you want a complicated spaceflight experience? If you do, so far the game's a 10. If not, it's a 1. 6 out of 10. What an absolute load of shit. I do.
There you go. And that's kind of the summation of the video. I feel this way a lot about Mario Maker. I'm going to make a similar point in my Mario Maker video where it's like, I think I said this in the last video as well, actually, where it's just like, it's fine. You make levels, it works. It's a fine game. This is a very good game for flying around in space and exploring. You know, you can't give these games a score. It's just absurd. I feel like thinking about like Red Dead Redemption. Like, could I give Red Dead Redemption a score? Because I personally think it's really, really boring a lot of the time. But I have friends that think it's the best game ever made. So can you give it a score? I don't think you really can, because it's a very specific type of game. You know, it's about getting immersed in story at what I would say a cost to challenge and free-form gameplay. It's very focused and driven, whereas I like a game to be much more like ambiguous about what you're supposed to do, you know, and you try and have to work it out. But the game was like, no, story, not problem solving. There's no problem solving in Red Dead Redemption. It is all go here, go here, go here. And that's fine for some people, but I don't like that. I get very frustrated because I like to like think about, oh, wait, you know, and it was the same with the hunting mechanic. It's like, you know, I want to follow the tracks. I want to organic. It's like in The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is very directed, but it makes up for it by giving you a lot of information when you're hunting. Like, Geralt is basically telling you a story, so you're always engaged. But when you're tracking in Red Dead Redemption, you are just following a load of on-screen prompts. Whereas in The Witcher 3, you're doing that, but you're also getting story at the same time. So Witcher 3 is an example of just pure story switched on all the time. Whereas Red Dead turns the story off for the gameplay elements, but you're just being prompted all the time. So typically Thomas is saying, don't worry about the rambling, that's why we're here. I've gone off on a fucking huge tangent. Cool, right, let's continue.
I do have to say
that was the end of it. I feel like that there surmised how I feel about Red Dead a lot more than how I got across in my video. I feel a bit like my Red Dead video was a little bit more ambiguous about that sort of thing. Anyway, let's go.
It's quite a difficult point for me to argue because the training missions themselves are in some ways quite poorly designed.
But first, you better deploy your landing gear and get this diamond back on the ground.
Okay, so,
Cargo scoop deployed.
Landing this ship is gonna be pretty tricky without a fully deployed landing gear command.
yeah, alright,
Flight assist off.
how do you fly this?
Oh no, we have an advert. Don't worry, none of this revenue goes to me, so let's just skip it. Sorry, that was a bit loud.
Fucking thing! They don't really...
So to summarize that, this is quite an interesting scene where I'm trying to like obviously play out a back and forth between me and the lady there. And what's interesting about that is if you look I do this in all my VR reviews, if you look very closely, this is quite interesting. She obviously doesn't give me enough time to say what I want to say, or she gives me too much time. You see, her dialogue is pre-recorded, so she says, you got to deploy your landing gear. Oh, come on, you need to deploy your landing gear. And the space between those is not enough time. I can't remember if it was too much time or not enough time for me to say my bit, because it would be... I think what happened was the gap was too big. Let's go with that. So she said her line, I said my line, and then there's a pause for quite a long time. What you can do with VR, which is really useful, is because the screen is always shaking, you can do a cut. And sometimes it's a little bit obvious, but the way I did the cut here is I cut just before I flew my head to the left. So while I'm moving, you can't see there's a cut. I'll show you what I mean if we watch it again.
Pretty tricky without...
Let's go back a bit.
for me
Here
to
we go.
argue
Right,
because
so-
the training missions themselves are in some ways quite poorly designed.
Here we go.
First, you better deploy your landing gear and get this diamond back on the ground.
Okay, so,
So right after she says cargo suit deployed, I move my head to the left, and that's exactly where the cut is. Because if the screen is moving very quickly, you can't tell that there's a cut. And so basically, the computer says landing gear. I don't know what she's saying here. I've forgotten. But she says her line, and then there's a long pause before the woman chimes in again. So I am just sitting without my head moving, and then as soon as she starts, I move my head to the left, and then there's a cut, which you probably won't be able to see. And that's how I cut this together.
Cargo scoop deployed.
Landing this ship is...
So that just before I moved there's a sudden cut, and that's how I cut this together. And that's probably actually what
gonna be
happens.
pretty tricky without a fully deployed landing gear command.
yeah, alright,
Flight assist off.
how do you fly this fucking thing? They don't really do anything but tell you...
There you go. That was a very elaborate explanation for something that wasn't that important. But this is the magic of cinema. So Healing Brew asks, couldn't you do the same thing outside of VR just by moving around real fast? Yes, you could, for sure, yeah. It's a bit easier in VR just because the head shake masks the cuts even more. But exactly, yeah. You can do that. I do that a lot with my camera work. So I'll have the camera, if I want to do I do it in my Skyrim video where I'm talking and I spin the camera to be on Sid. Those are two separate cuts. When the camera's moving, I then cut to a new shot of the camera moving to Sid. It's just two separate things. It makes it a bit easier because Sid's obviously not in the right pose. So I basically keep flipping the camera to Sid until he's looking at it, and I can flip those two things together. I guess that's probably quite a common technique because basically when the camera is like moving really quick, you can basically cut to anything you like as long as the next shot starts with the camera moving quick and then stopping, if that makes sense.
you to do things you don't yet quite know how to do. It's like a checklist that says, these are the things you need to do. Go and learn what they are and how to do them.
Shifting the power between systems, engines, and weapons will mean you have power where you need it, when you need it.
They aren't...
That was very loud. Yeah, that's very indicative. They've improved this a lot now. I think there are some genuine... There's kind of like an in-game manual which explains things quite a lot. You know, it explains what putting power into engines actually does. Because like putting out power into systems means that your shields regenerate faster, I'm fairly sure. Put it into engines, you travel faster. Putting it into weapons, it doesn't make them more powerful. It makes them reload faster, I believe. But you have to Google that to find it out. Now I believe they put that in the game, but you just have to know how to find it. So they're improving it all the time. What baffles me about this game is how they're still adding so much stuff all the time when it's not like a monthly... It's not like World of Warcraft where you pay monthly. I guess it's just a really popular game. But it just seems like, you know... I don't know how they afford all this. But there you go. That's just an internal thought about this. Right, we go five more minutes. I think this might be a longer episode. I don't know when I started this. I don't think I have anything else to add. No. It's just that the point being is that they are improving this game all the time, and I imagine it's a lot. I mean, I know for a fact it's a lot better now than it was when I played it about a year and a half ago. And it was still pretty good back then. I had no issues with it.
Aren't really self-contained lessons. And as a science teacher myself, I find this quite...
What's this? I haven't seen this in ages. This is something I made when I was like, as a science teacher myself, I was like, what should I have on screen? And so at the time... right, so I'm going to explain this and then we'll stop. This will be the last thing we do. This is cool. So this, you can basically see all of it. There's a type of question in the science exams, I'm pretty sure in all of the, in the UK, that I'm pretty certain is in all of the exam boards. There's different exam boards that you can choose, but you will basically get a GCSE out of it, which is a qualification. It's the same qualification, but you can use different exam boards, and different exam boards ask different questions. But basically, every exam board do an experimental type of question, and they're worth about 6 marks out of about 60 in an exam. So basically, they're worth 10%, which is the difference between a B and an A, or a C and a B. This is how I explain it to them. And this is my method that I basically came up with myself on how to answer these, because I basically got together all these different experimental questions and read them all and came up with basically a foolproof way of answering them that would get you 6 marks out of 6. Basically, like 10 marks are available. You just have to cover 6 points out of the 10. And so I was just like, when you get one of these questions, just remember this and then do it. So it's M, E, C, S, D, and R. And then they would come up there and they'd be like, oh, many elephants can sit down repeatedly, or something like that. And then this is what I taught my students. This is basically me giving you a lesson. And then M was measuring, E is equipment, C is change, what will I keep the same, how will I represent my data? So it was basically, what are you measuring? Write it down. So for this example, they are measuring how the resistance of a thermistor changes with temperature. So what are we measuring? We're measuring temperature. What are we using to measure it? We're using a thermometer. What will you change? You will change the temperature. What will you keep the same? You'll keep the amount of water the same. And basically, that, even if you just write all that down, you've already got 4 out of the 6 marks. You'll make a graph of temperature over resistance and repeat the experiment. 6 marks. Bam. Yeah, now you can all do a British exam. See, for example, like here, what am I trying to find? We are trying to find resistance and such and such and such. And then I give them a perfect answer. And then I would give them like 6 of these examples where they would apply this method that I put together. And that was it. There you go. When I was a teacher, I put a lot of fucking time into teaching. I basically only taught 1 day a week, but I would just have a really intense day. But I took it very, very seriously because, it's important. These are kids. They need their future is dependent on this stuff. And I used to really carry that on my shoulders. I was like, must help. Like I had one student who I won't give any very specifics. Basically, he had a lot of troubles with learning. And he occupied a small part of my brain for like a year. And I was just obsessed with like getting him to pass. And he did. And his parents basically revere me now because I basically forced him into getting into 6th form. Like without me, and this isn't me like being, oh, I'm great. There's no way he'd have gotten into 6th form, but he did. And that's really important in this. It was really important to him and his parents. And I basically it was horrible. Like I would have to like basically send like RC emails to his parents being like, this is not good enough. You have to get him to do, because he wasn't putting enough. And it was like, and that is not me at all. And I'm just used to get really stressed being like, oh, I've just sent a really stressy email. So what I'm not being like, oh, I'm great. What I'm saying is that I am a very obsessive person. And I was just not obsessive, but like anxious person. And my anxiety was just like basically telling me like, it is your responsibility to get this person into 6th form. And it's like, well, it wasn't really, but I made it I went above and beyond my £30 an hour. So there you go. So what the point of that story being is making this video and getting someone through their exams at the same time was a fucking hellscape. And I was very glad when I think when my Patreon reached about $1,500 a month or so, and I could cover my rent and food, I was just like, I'm quitting. I'm done. Because making videos and teaching is literally ruining my life. But there you go. Anyway, I'm sorry about that huge ramble. I hope you found that slightly interesting. I'm sure it probably wasn't amazing. We'll stop there. I hope you all had a nice time. We made it to 5 minutes. I think I may have been talking for a little bit longer than normal, but that's fine. And there you go. I hope you had a nice time. Sorry about my rant about banks and stuff. And that's it. I'm very bad at ending these. I hope you have a nice day. I will see you on next Wednesday when I stream some more Fallout, probably. In my next video, this is quite important, my next Mario Maker video, I'm probably going to talk about my streaming in a bit more detail, like a little bit in the middle. Because I'm going to basically talk about a level I made on stream during the video. So that would be a good way for me to be like, oh, by the way, I'm streaming every week, and I'm going to start a Fallout New Vegas Let's Play very soon, where I play all of Fallout New Vegas, and that'll become a very big thing that I'm planning on doing. That's quite important to me that I do that well. So I'm going to announce that after the Mario video. I go on holiday because it's my honeymoon after my wedding, so I don't know when that will actually happen. But there you go. I hope you had a nice time. I'm just rambling now. Bye everyone. Thank you for watching me lose my mind for another half an hour. Ciao, ciao.